everyone, welcome to this video. I trust and hope that you're doing really amazing. So we're going to be talking about what is going on across the Caribbean. We're in our dry season, but one of the things I want to do is just to talk about one seismic hazard, which may be a disaster and has been a disaster in many cases: earthquakes. Now, January is recognized as Earthquake Awareness Month, at least for Jamaica. I'm sure it is for other countries as well. You can let me know what the Earthquake Awareness Month is for you in the comments for your country. But I'm going to talk about that, just to give you guys a bit of details about earthquakes. It's never a wrong time in terms of getting more and more info about how they happen and actually knowing what goes on beneath our feet. So we're going to get straight into the details. We start out with the weather activity. As we look at the satellite imagery, much is really not going on in the Caribbean region. There are a couple of spots which are experiencing some shower activity, but as it pertains to a whole lot of convection and all, we're not really having that. Why? Our atmosphere has become more stabilized. So aside from these are the frontal systems moving by and maybe a couple passing troughs, aside from those, we're not really getting a whole plethora of rain across the Caribbean region on a whole. But as we're going to be heading towards the latter part of spring and going into summer, we're going to be getting more and more rainfall. So yeah, we're in our dry season now, typically January through April, well, December through April. That is our dry season. So if we should look at a graph that plots the rainfall amount experienced on average each month through the Caribbean, we would notice that the least amount of rain is between around December and April. So that is our dry season. Doesn't mean that there is no rain, but there is reduced rainfall activity. We don't have as many atmospheric features to be influencing a whole lot of rainfall. But as we're going to be heading into summer, as I said, we're going to have an increase in rainfall activity and all of that good stuff. So in terms of right now, even heading throughout the next day or so, as we take a look at this graphic, we can see that dissipated frontal system that extends towards the Lesser Antilles and even a front north of the Caribbean. So as for that system near the Lesser Antilles, it's helping out to bring maybe some passing showers, maybe some intermittent rain. Let me know what's been going on for you. And then there is a bit of cooler air, which is loitering for parts of the North Caribbean. Now, it's not something that is very noticeable because, in the Caribbean, we are warm all year round. But we do notice a little dip in the temperature as we head towards the winter time, because when these fronts come down, especially if it is a bit rainy or overcast, is when we tend to actually feel more of the cooler air, because the sun's rays are obscured, so we're not feeling those. We're just feeling the cooler weather. And even in the night, let me tell you guys, it is pretty hot in the daytime here, especially in the afternoon and between the hours of 11 a.m. going to 3 p.m. It's so hot outside. Speaking for Jamaica, based on my experience, because I left to work in the afternoon, and yesterday it was so hot. It was sweltering. But by the time I left in the night, it was actually really cool outside. So I'm happy that little variation there. I do not like the heat. I hate sweating. It's just not my cup of tea at all. So yeah, that is the kind of weather that we are typically experiencing now, and especially the more elevated places, persons who live in more rural areas or in hillier areas, it is a bit cooler there as well. I'm all for the cool weather, as I said. Now, in terms of the next potential big cool down, I'm not seeing, based on the models, I'm not seeing where a huge cool down is expected. So this is just going to be the typical kind of weather. There's no major feature right now to really influence our weather in terms of any major rainfall activity, significant flooding across many areas. None of that is going on right now. So just wanted to give you an update in terms of that. And then, as I mentioned, it is Earthquake Awareness Month. At least it is recognized. January is recognized as Earthquake Awareness Month for Jamaica. And we really don't experience big earthquakes here. We have very limited earthquakes that have been stronger than magnitude 6 on the Richter scale. But we've had some moderate shakings. From time to time, we get minor shakings as well, where we just feel a brief jolt and, that's it. Oh, an earthquake. But that doesn't mean we're exempt from experiencing any larger seismic event. Any country can experience that, and we're in a very hazardous zone in the Caribbean. It's not just earthquakes, not just hurricanes, floods, landslides. We are prone to those natural events as well, hazards that may become disasters. So yes, in terms of earthquakes, I mean, we live on Earth's surface, and Earth's surface is made up of these huge, large, very large rocks called tectonic plates. So right now, I'm sitting on the tectonic plate. My house is sitting on the tectonic plate. You are walking on a tectonic plate. So yeah, that's pretty much what makes up Earth's surface, not just our land masses, but our ocean basins as well, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean. So when these plates interact with each other, there are three main types of boundaries. We have convergent boundaries where plates move towards each other. Divergent, they move apart from each other. Transform, they move alongside each other. So those are the three types of plate movements. And when we get those interactions, those typically result in earthquakes. So that is essentially how earthquakes happen, when we get these plates interacting with each other. And where the earthquake starts, at that point where that stress is released, where that energy is released, it is inside of the earth. Let me be specific. Inside of the earth, that is called the hypocenter, or the focus of the earthquake. Now, that is inside the earth. Now, on the surface, just about, let's say that this point is where the earthquake starts in earth. And then on the surface now, let's say a house is there, that is called the epicenter. So it's a point directly above the focus on Earth's surface. And as the seismic waves travel, they get weaker because energy is lost. So the strongest shaking would have been felt closer to the epicenter. A weaker shaking would have been felt further away from the epicenter. Most recently, one of the significant quakes we've had in the Caribbean was several weeks ago. Cuba, just offshore Cuba, there was a 6.8 shaking. Now, those persons who were along the coast would have felt a significant shaking. There was some damage done there as well. Meanwhile, for Jamaica, we definitely felt a jolt, and it felt pretty strong, at least for me at the time. But in reality, we did not experience anywhere near a 6.8 because those waves would have gotten weaker and weaker as they travel. So that is essentially what happens in terms of, earthquakes, how they happen, typically happen in terms of the crustal movement. And in terms of mitigation, we're building codes have to be up to par with what can withstand the intensity of these earthquakes. So adapting from countries such as Japan, for example, where the infrastructure is just top tier, that's a great way for a country to really mitigate the potential of damage and destruction in earthquakes. Because when we have these buildings that sway in the earthquakes, they're not just shaking and then crumbling. That's one way that saves many lives, or just by just having these properly constructed buildings that are made to actually interact with earthquakes and not crumble. So that's one big way to prepare. And in the event, of course, we have to stay calm as possible. That's always fundamental, because we can be in a safe spot, and because we feel the shaking and we start panicking, we run straight into the danger. But yeah, it's just natural human reaction whenever there is some major event: fight, flight, fright mode. So yes, guys, I just wanted to give you a bit of information about earthquakes, talk a bit in terms of the scientifics of how they happen, and also give you that brief weather update. So there's not going to be a huge variation in our weather for some time, but I will be keeping you posted. Guys, that I will not be leaving you hanging at all. So I will be giving you the necessary updates as time progresses. But that is pretty much what I wanted to bring to your attention in this video. I trust and hope that you found it to be quite informative. But if you do have questions, drop them below in the comments. I will get to you when I have the chance to do so. And remember to always be weather-wise.